So if you guys remember last week's Monday Morning Memory, we talked about my 89 Kawasaki Ninja EX500, which was my first bike-ish, right? And the reason that is the story I'm about to tell you is about my other first bike-ish. Because, you'll probably just have to watch the video to understand, because I'm hoping I can explain it on this week's Monday Morning Memory from Pugliese Speed Shop. All right, we're going to, as always, take it over to the book. And guys, there's a reason that me and my father both have books here, and why they're both so similar is because there's always a story. You know, there's a story behind every car, behind every memory. You know, and if I didn't have these books, even my own, to kind of keep it somewhat in order, I don't know that I ever could. Perfect example, guys, is, so here's the EX500, right? As I'm repainting it after I wrecked it, that's a different bike in the background we haven't talked about yet. And then we go into the Dodge, right? The old Dodge Ram 50. Here we are putting it together. I can kind of tell, like, from how the house looks, of kind of where the time frame, like no lawn, that kind of thing. But here, like, we have the truck before and after. You see the difference in some things, right? Well, now you have this guy. This is my 1990 Suzuki Katana 600. As you can tell, I've got 3 pictures of it. Let me see if I get it better without the. There you go. There's that guy. She's the chains laying there. There's a tank bra. That says stud muffin. In case you're wondering, I didn't put it there. It's actually a nice teal color. I kind of forgot about that. Here, is that like a Harley sticker? I don't think they even had that logo then. Vance and Hines pipe, 4-in-1. There's some kind of stuff tied up there. That is a car headlight. Brake caliper just hanging. Yeah. And then we got this other one over here. That's the same. It's all the same day. You can see I freshly painted my dryer right where that thing's sitting. There's a dryer back there looking clean, huh? And there's the Ninja before I wrecked it. Later on, by the way, it became the same appliance white because I had a bunch left over. But yeah, that's a car halogen headlight duct taped in there. That's actually the right windscreen. Do you see the wheel? That's missing some bearings and bushings and whatnot, huh? I don't have anything as you go, but guys, she's put together pretty well right there. And that's not just for the picture. Well, maybe. Let's bring this over here. She's looking all right, guys. And the chain's on. It was actually rideable at that point in the game. Not for very long. We'll talk about that. That cap in the background. There's my 5-liter. That belongs to the Nissan hardbody that Greg put together when I got the Dodge off of him. So, notice the grass is not there, but I got those sweet pillars. What all happened here? I don't know. We're going to sit down and talk about this. All right. So, like most guys in the military, I tend to, especially if you made a career out of it, a lot of things happen in a short period of time. So I usually try to figure out the time frame based on where I was stationed. And for the most part, it works out flawlessly. I always know when things happen, when I owned what, all that kind of stuff. Well, the problem here with this time frame is I hung out with Greg all the time on the ship, and we both went to China Lake together. So for the first 7 years of our careers, we were at the same command with like a 6-month window on each side. That was it. So it makes it, and we lived right by each other within, I think, 3 miles of each other. Our kids hung out, our wives hung out. Our wives actually worked together. Me and him would carpool one way to work, and they would carpool the other way. It was a really cool time, but it makes things hard to think of what happened exactly where. So I learned how to ride a motorcycle as I was transferring to China Lake, and that's when Greg taught me on that Ninja. Well, he wasn't planning on getting rid of that bike, so I was shopping for one, and I knew I wanted a 600, and that's about all I knew. I wanted some kind of crotch rocket, and I didn't have a lot of money. The internet was new to me, and there was all different ways, like new and interesting ways of finding stuff for sale. This is, let's see, I didn't know about eBay yet. Not even sure it was around. But like Auto Trader, and then there was like, you could like, we didn't use Google. Was it Bing or Ask Jeeves or one of those other search engines? And you could put stuff for sale in there, and classifieds would come up, and it was a crazy time. Like, we weren't used to this stuff. So I stumble upon a website, not that kind of website, called City Cycle Salvage. And basically it was a guy who had a warehouse, not really even a warehouse, like a real large industrial shop, but not that large. It was about the size of mine, maybe a little bit bigger, but it was like in a row of shops, one of those kind of places. So industrial park, I think they call it. And I also was not familiar with how large California was. I should have been, because I lived there for about 4 to 5 years at this point, but I'm an idiot, so there's that. So I'm looking. So City Cycle Salvage was just outside of San Francisco. Now, if you ever saw a map of California, it's like this long. San Diego, San Francisco, Oregon. That's kind of how it goes. So I didn't realize this. We couldn't just pick up our phones and punch into Google how far is it. You have to look at an atlas, or knew somebody that like went there, or it was a whole thing. So at this point, we no longer lived in San Diego. We lived in Adelanto, which I thought was central. That's not correct. It's still Southern California, but it's the high desert, if we're being technical. But yeah, so it was a very weird time. I was actually going to school in Lemoore, which is Central California. And, well, I talked to the guy. We're emailing back and forth of this motorcycle. He wanted $250 for. Nothing else out there was that cheap. I was willing to drive to get it. There was a few pictures. He said he had some plastics and could make it work. You see the bike looked rough. It's clearly been down, I don't know, 300 to 400 times. It's beat to crap. It's $250. It's got 50,000 miles on it. A hard 50,000 miles. But I'm a young, motivated dude that wants a crotch rocket, and I've got a nickel's worth of knowledge, so let's get after it. So I don't even own a bike. Well, of course I don't own a bike. Why would I don't even own a truck. I got a Mustang and a Neon before it blew up. We're building that truck, I believe, at this point. But yeah, and Greg had a different one. He didn't have a solid truck to drive either. I rented a truck, okay? We rented a Ford Ranger at 22 years old. I'm sure it didn't cost me much money at all. It did. And me and Megan jump in this truck, and we shoot north. We stopped by Lemoore. I just gone to school. I think I'd just gone to school there. So I knew a little bit about it. Enough to know I didn't want to live there for 4 years at one point in my life, but that happened too. way down the road. Anyways, we stopped there because Megan needed a new ID, and we continued on. And I seriously thought that this place was maybe an hour past or more. It's not. So about 3 or 4 hours later, we're getting close. I think we did have MapQuest, we had MapQuest. I think we used, where you'd print out the directions and you'd line by line read them. We get there, it's dark. We left very early in the morning, so this was an all-day evolution. And I see this motorcycle, and Megan, God bless her, she's trying to hold back this look of what the hell is wrong with you. Now, at this point in the game, Megan wasn't totally hip to like how we do things. When I say we, I mean like dudes that think they can fix everything. She knew I could fix some stuff, but she wasn't mentally prepared for what was happening. All right, so we get in this warehouse, and there are some decent looking bikes. And we walk past those to the junk corner, and dude's like, here's your pile, right? It didn't, you saw that wheel was, it didn't even want to roll right. I mean, it was a thing. I was like, okay. So we put it on the bike. I could have left at that point, but guys, I have a truck rental my entire day, gas, or I'm already probably a couple $100 into this. But you know what? Honestly, I remember that trip. We had a great time. It was a road trip for us. We love doing that kind of stuff. So driving up there, just, talking about everything and nothing at the same time. Pretty cool. We get there. So we get the bike. We go to load it. The dude decides he's going to give me like a smoking deal with some really nice plastics that you guys see on this guy right here. When it was all said and done, I think I paid $100 for those, which was pretty good, especially for the time. The bike was maybe 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old. So and he gave me some other stuff, enough to put together. The seat had a little rip in it, which I easily could have fixed. I just didn't. I get it home. We load it up. We get it home, and I didn't realize even that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. He's the one that told me that's not the right headlight. It actually worked. Somebody was riding this motorcycle looking like this. It was wild, right? And then something happened in the front end. But and he said the transmission. He said something thought was wrong with the transmission. So that's why it was so cheap. That's why it was so cheap. You guys saw the rest of the bike. But honestly, it was all, somebody was riding this thing. So the headlight worked. But he's like, that's not the right one. The more he looked at it, he kind of felt bad. Me being as young as I was and obviously naive. He's like, hey, with that fairing, here's the headlight that goes with it. Here's this and here's that. And he starts giving me all the little pieces I'm going to need. I was like, oh, sweet. And he's just going to sell me the fairings for $100. He gave me it all for $100. So I got $350 in this motorcycle. Plus car rental, gas, and a day there and back. We got back in the middle of the night. Offloaded the next day, and we didn't do a whole lot. Greg comes by, who knows more about bikes than me. I'm barely learning how to ride, and my maintenance on it, I didn't know nothing about nothing until probably years after this. Yeah, so how would I know? I never owned one. What would I work on, right? So I start piecing stuff together. We get it running, and it wasn't taking much. I put a battery in it. It fires up great. Actually, I think the battery worked. Yeah, it had a good battery. And I'm like, this thing's all right. So I drive it. I get on it. I ride it down the road, and I turn around. And I ride it back, and this Vance & Hines pipe sound dope. It's one of the reasons that I have Vance & Hines on my Road Glide, because it sounded so good. And Greg's like, hey man, let me take it down the road. Okay, he takes it down the road, and I think he kicks second or third gear, and the back wheel just locks up, and that bike's like, he's trying everything he can to stop it. He grabs the clutch, and it starts rolling. He gets it back. The trans is locked up. I was like, oh. So this guy probably did something to free it up, or the guy before him, or whatever. So I'm like, well, all right. I don't know nothing about nothing. I already told you that. My plan was I'll just throw a trans in it. Now, in a Harley, it's on the back, boop, boop, you can bolt it on and off. Similar-ish to a car. And that's kind of how I was putting it together because that's all I knew anything about. One of my buddies tells me, it was Chris Shimka, he told me. He was a first class on a boat, and he was an avid rider, still is. I actually talk to him sometimes still now. Now, nowadays, as they say. So he's like, you got to split the case. I have no idea what that means. What that means is your engine is here. You need to break the engine in half and start swapping out gears and clutches and who knows what, sprockets and all this stuff. And I'm like, whew, that is not something I'm ready to do. And for somebody to do that, it's going to be not cheap. So I believe I was riding the Ninja when I got that, because Greg had already bought his other bike and I was going to buy it, but I wasn't sure. There was a gray area there. All right. So I realized at this point I needed to buy that bike off of Greg. I had to convince him to sell it, because he was thinking about holding on to it for spare. I don't remember all the ins and outs, guys, but I do remember I made a terrible financial decision. Not as bad as when I bought that Neon, because I was out a couple $100 instead of thousands of dollars. But it sat there for a while, and it wasn't too long, maybe 3 or 4 months or something. And I said, you know what, let me get after this thing. And I didn't know what to do mechanically. I knew I wasn't going to split the case. And I said, you know what, I'm going to make it look presentable. So, because I had the stuff to do that, and let the next guy take care of it. That maybe he's an engine motorcycle guy. Somebody like Nick could scoop this thing up and knock it out in a freaking afternoon, probably. I could not. So I got some black spray paint and I sanded everything down. I polished that turd, guys. As you can see, it went from this to this. And really, that was probably about a weekend's worth of work. We already had, now Greg and I had messed with it a little bit to get the brakes put together, and we put the bushings all right in the front end, and we put the chain on, and all that stuff was done. So it looked like a complete motorcycle, because it was. I mean, it did ride. And then I did the cosmetics. I fixed up the tank a little bit, little Bondo, same with the side, side pieces there. And I left luckily it was already black, the big plastics I got with the Katana on the bottom. So that was good. It had some scuffs in it, but it wasn't bad. Everything worked on. All the lights worked, everything. It fired up. You could kick it into gear, and I wouldn't go any further than that. So in the last picture where I mentioned there was Greg's hard body there, I borrowed from him, pulled the cap off it, which was also fun because he had this. It went into the back, It was like just sealed up, and it was like this big gasket. So when we drove this thing 40 miles or something like that, there was no back window right behind our head. Megan was super happy about that. Luckily it didn't rain. But I drove it up to Four Corners, as they call it. Where is that? 58 and 395 connect. And there's a Pilot gas station there now, which was brand new at the time. I mean, I think they just opened it. I met the guy there. I believe I did sell it on eBay, or it might have been a Cycle Trader. So Cycle Trader is how I found it. I think it was on a Cycle Trader, because you only put one picture, and I put that picture where it looked great. And he said, I didn't know this thing had a hole in the seat, and I told him it did, and whatever. Guys, I got $400 for this motorcycle. I was into this thing for probably $450, right? Before the car rental and all that was going to get it. And back then, guys, not to just downplay what things cost now, but for what I made back then, and at that point Andrew was around, and so young couple, new house mortgage, new baby, and losing money was not great. Megan was not very pleased with it, but I don't think I really told her how bad it was. It wasn't terrible, guys, but like I said, when you don't have a lot and you lose a little, it sucks. But my fault. You make your money when you buy it. You guys have probably heard that a million times. I thought because I was getting at a cheap price, that was what they meant by that saying. It wasn't. I bought the worst thing possible with hardly any knowledge on how to fix it, and that was a terrible idea. I learned a lot. Luckily, Greg was on it when it locked up because I was just starting to ride, because I would have dumped it for sure. So that was luck. And I mean, it came out looking cool. And that guy that bought it, supposedly he knew how to do all this stuff. So hopefully he was able to, put a transmission on the thing and ride it for another, I don't know, couple of years until the 50,000 miles of clearly not maintained time on that thing probably ended with its demise. But so that was actually, I can't even call that the first bike I legally owned because I never even put it in my name. So I guess the Ninja is the first one no, never put that in my name either, because transfer fees in California were a son of a bitch, and they still, they'll always be. But so we left that in Greg's name until I sold it, and he just signed the title for me. When the hell did I own my first motorcycle? We've already gone through two that I've had, and I actually never legally owned either one. Maybe next week we'll talk about one that I actually owned. Tune in to find out, and hope you guys like the story. Thanks for watching, guys.